Hello and welcome to the Kushmerek Connection. Thank you as always for tuning in and joining me from the FATV studio on Boulder Drive in downtown Fitchburg. Joining me today is the state representative from the 1st Middlesex District, one of the newest additions to the North Worcester County and North Central delegation, Margaret Scarsdale. Margaret, thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Oh, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So a few months on the job now, 4 months on the job, I guess, as of filming. And tell us a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself to folks from Fitchburg who may not have heard of you and your newest constituents in Lunenburg.
Yes. Well, good morning, everyone. I am Margaret Scarsdale. I represent the 1st Middlesex District, which is Ashby, Dunstable, Groton, Lunenburg, Pepperell, and Townsend. Very happy to be here. I campaigned on a message of building collaborations and partnerships, and that message really resonated, and it's wonderful to be at the State House and be able to begin to work on building those collaborations and partnerships.
Well, it's been wonderful to have you as a partner in the first few months of this legislative session, and realizing just how collaborative and communicative you and your office have been. And I think that's something the North County delegation really prides themselves in, is this collaboration across party lines, and realizing that we're all in this together, and that so many of our needs are the same regardless of party or municipality. The needs of North Central are often very similar.
Oh, they are, and I think our success really depends on each other as well. No one person can tackle, all of the issues and all of the work. So building those relationships, leaning on each other, learning from each other, helping each other, it's very powerful work.
Absolutely. Well said. And I think your ability to hit the ground running in so many ways is because you're not new to public service. You've been in this game for a while, both the municipal level and working with constituents. Tell us a little bit about your history with public service and serving a municipality.
Oh, yes. When I look back on it, the first steps that I took into public service, it was really just being drawn to an issue that was affecting this region, the proposed gas pipeline, and just understanding how powerful that work was when people gathered together to work on a common issue. And so my focus was building a relationship across all of the northern border of Massachusetts, from Deerfield out to Dracut, to bring communities together to understand how we could strategize, how we could partner together to try to stop this pipeline that people really did not want to see coming through our small communities. And that really gave me a taste for civic engagement, and it's just so purposeful. And then that led to a toxic dirt issue that we had in Pepperell, so I stayed involved with that, and luckily we seem to have defeated that issue, and that led to the Pepperell Select Board, which was an opportunity on a municipal level to bring the towns, we're a regional school system, so to bring those 3 towns together to advocate for regional school support. And, even wider in this area, the North Central area, to start talking about a regional approach to economic development, which helps community development. So again, it's been very slow at each stage. I never said, I'm going here for my next step. It was more, let's work on this issue, and then the next step kind of appeared.
These I think small towns in North Central really give you an opportunity to immerse yourself in the issues and in a municipality, and working cooperatively and collaboratively with municipal partners and volunteers and residents, right? And just what a wonderful way to get oriented to public service. And I think you've really just excelled at hitting the ground running, and it's not easy. You represent numerous communities. I'm fortunate I have one city and one town, and that makes it easy to make sure I'm in both places at once and getting to know both governments and leaders. But you have a number of select boards and town meeting members that you really have to work with. Tell us a little bit about 5 months in. How is that going?
Well, I think all of the work I did, even pre-select board, and certainly on the select board, I started building those relationships because I genuinely care about concerns that other people have, and I think that's something I noticed right off the bat. I've never had anyone, when I've talked to them about their issues, not be excited that I want to work with them. So, when I was elected to be the state representative, I already had these relationships, and everybody already had my cell number, and I had theirs. So it was easy to find out what people wanted, file bills for that in a timely manner, and I think people explained it to me as being at the State House is like drinking out of a fire hose with a nozzle about that big and all the water is coming at you, and that's what it felt like probably the first month. But
perfectly described.
Yes. But
I remember that sensation very well myself.
Well, but it's thanks to the partnerships like from the district and at the State House. Everybody is so collaborative. They're so collegial. I mean, to the person, we must have gotten tens of dozens of people reaching out to us to say, if you need anything at all, let us know. And we have reached out to people because you want to be efficient and productive. So why reinvent the wheel? Go to people like yourself who've done a home rule petition before and can walk us through the steps. So it's been amazing.
That is the most, I think, uplifting part, of the experience, is just seeing the collaborative nature of all of our colleagues, right? And I think from the first moment you step into the State House and you're sworn in, all of your colleagues want to see you succeed.
Yes.
And that's not just our Democratic colleagues. That's, I think that's everybody in the building of, I find that everybody reaches out and they want to see you succeed. And they want to see you feel like you belong and that you know what you're doing and how to do it. I look back at that same experience of, for me, the dozens of phone calls from folks at the most senior levels and folks at the most junior levels saying, welcome, how can I help?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, that was amazing. And I'll have to tell you, being on the committees has given me a new appreciation for that, because on the committees, you're working as a body, Republican, Democrats, the senators and representatives, because I'm on all joint committees by happenstance. And just really being focused on an issue in front of us and very collegial. So I love the experience of the committee work.
And it really is so helpful, to your point, of having a committee that allows you to really focus and do a deep dive into certain subject matter areas. Because when you're back in the district, right, I was reflecting on when I was taking a tour of Dick's Market Garden just a couple of weeks ago, and I went from ribbon cutting at a bank to being on a farm in about 5 minutes, and then you were off to the next event. And how often are we pivoting from government, a constituent meeting, agriculture, industry? We do it all. Can you talk a little bit about kind of that varied approach when you're in the district?
Oh, well, I think you summed it up really well. It's being able to pivot from a field where I'm out helping a farmer cut asparagus and we're talking about agricultural policy to, going to a business opening in Groton and having a change of clothes in the car, so I'm out of my jeans and into a suit. It just makes me think of that John Muir quote about when you tug on a thread in nature, you find it's connected to everything. So we can't have, a vital community, a vibrant community without our agriculture, without our mental health workers, without our teachers, without our first responders, without economic vibrancy. So it's really amazing to be part of that, to try to lift all of those threads up.
Well, I'm really just so amazed. And for you came in after a really tight election. And went to a recount and took even longer than just the recounts. Really, every level of state, and so while most folks had the luxury of knowing they won the election and really being able to onboard and craft their legislation before the bill filing deadline, which is just 2 weeks into your time as a representative. You were sworn in literally the day before or the day of, right? The bill filing deadline, correct?
Yes, I was sworn in on the 18th, midday. That was a Wednesday. The deadline was Friday. I didn't have my computer in my account until noontime around on Thursday. So now we're down to 12 hours, and we had to learn the laws system. But we had already been talking about what bills. We settled on 9. We were able to get all of those filed in the 12 hours. One of them is already passed. It was a sick leave bank that we shepherded through.
And congratulations. So, yeah. You got your first bill passed in your first 90 days of office, which is that's lightning speed, and that may be a new land record for time to bill passage in the House.
But I also have to say, like, a perfect example of collaboration, like working with the chairs of the committees that bill had to get through in about 12 hours, certainly working with the Speaker's office and the leadership from there. That's the reason that bill got through, and I think in record time.
Yeah. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
That doesn't always happen, and it's nice. And then that gives you an opportunity to then work with your Senate companion, Senator Cronin, in this case.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Well, fantastic. And remind me, you have there's 2 senators that you work with?
Yes, Senator Cronin and Senator Kennedy.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So that's talk about even more collaboration too of having some great Senate partners to work with. And Senator Kennedy represents the greater Lowell area, correct?
Yes, yes. So we share Pepperell and Dunstable together. And, just a shout out to our staff too, because honestly, they really keep the machinery running and make things smooth, and we couldn't do it without them.
Well, with our last couple of minutes together, can you maybe just talk a little bit about that regional approach and just maybe some of the collaboration at a local level that you've seen between your colleagues?
I would say the biggest one right now is a regional approach to try to address regional school funding. Out of the 6 towns, 5 of mine are in a regional school system. And for whatever reason, the funding formula, the way that it works, it's not really reaching down to certain towns, and certainly the 5 in the first Middlesex. It's been a real scramble to try to make ends meet between the municipal budget and the school budget, and education is such a priority of mine, and making sure people have quality education and making sure that the towns can afford to do that while balancing their municipal needs. People are just so willing to work together. We want to find a solution, and everybody has a piece of that. So bringing them together is just so fundamental to the process, and again, just very rewarding and powerful.
Well, it's certainly a big and complex and complicated issue, but I know that you're really making those inroads and strides already, and so looking forward to working with you and our other colleagues on that issue and so many more in the months and years to come. And so, Representative Scarsdale, thank you so much for coming on the show, and look forward to having you back in a couple of years to do a debrief of your first term.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rep. Kushmerek.
All right, fantastic. Folks, stay tuned. Coming back up with us will be Jeff Roberge from the North Central Workforce Board. Stay tuned.
I remember when
Fitchburg was the smallest town in the area, but by 1835, it had grown to be the largest town. By 1840 and 50, most Fitchburg residents had become abolitionists. Another early industry in Fitchburg that still continues today is scythe making. Women used to have to spin yarn and weave cloth themselves, but now it was being made in factories, cutting down and exporting its wood to build cities up and down the East Coast, and of course, for making paper. Starting in the 1800s, the population becomes much more diverse. Fitchburg Machine Works expanded widely.
After World War II, Main Street was lively.
And we're back. Joining me now is Jeff Roberge from the MassHire North Central Workforce Board. Jeff, thank you so much for coming in the studio and sharing a little bit about what you do and the services you offer.
I appreciate you having me on today. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure.
And how you got into this line of work.
Absolutely. So I'm the executive director over at MassHire, the MassHire North Central Workforce Board. Sure. We're located over at 100 Erdman Way in Leominster. Primary responsibility of the Workforce Board is we cover the North Central region, the 24 towns in North Central. And what we do is we look at all of the federal and state money that comes in for workforce development here in the region. We try and align our job seekers, our education professionals, and our employers to utilize that money for workforce training. So that's primarily what we do. We oversee the operations at the Career Center, and ultimately our goal is to create career pipelines for folks in this region to live here, raise families here, and build careers.
That's amazing.
It's good work.
How did you get into this work?
Oh, wow, long story. So, you know, my entire professional career, I worked primarily in workforce development. I have a background in working with people with disabilities. So I started my work at the Seven Hills Foundation in Worcester, developing their workforce programs for people primarily with disabilities. Sure. I went on to get my master's degree in vocational rehabilitation. I worked at the Massachusetts Rehabilitation Commission over in Fitchburg, and I also oversaw the West District for MRC, and then ended up at the Workforce Board, which incidentally was like 1.5 miles from my house. So instead of traveling all over Western Mass, I ended up being able to come back here to Leominster and Fitchburg and do my work here. So.
And I asked about your experience because, you know, I've heard you talk about it before, and I think what you do really well and what the North Central Workforce Board does so well is you understand that there's an interconnectivity of issues around human services and around industry, and realizing that usually it's not just someone in need of just a job. There's usually a couple of things going on in folks' lives, and I think you do a really good job in addressing the holistic issues and the whole of the person in helping to retrain, reskill, and redirect.
Right? Get people to work, right?
That's right.
And it begins with, first of all, making opportunity available to all. And what I mean by that is we want to make sure that we have a diverse workforce. We want to make sure that we are inclusive of everybody's abilities. I firmly believe, and our strategic plan really revolves around engaging our social service agencies in the region as we develop these workforce programs, making sure that people are getting access to what we call wraparound supports or supportive services, right? Because it's not just about being successful on the job. It's about making sure that there's housing opportunities, child care related opportunities, educational related opportunities for folks. So our plan, when, you know, the Workforce Board, we're comprised of about 32 businesses, social service agencies, other state agencies like Mass Rehab, like Mass Commission for the Blind, Department of Transitional Assistance. So our board really looks at all of the ways in which this region can support somebody to build a career.
That's fantastic. And you also work with businesses and industry too, don't you?
All the time. So all the work, our work is driven by what we call the identification of our priority industries in the region. So a lot of my work revolves around the analysis of labor market information, the analysis of, you know, things like the unemployment rate, sure. Job participation rates, industry rates. So the first thing we do is we develop what we call a regional blueprint. That blueprint identifies what are our priority and critical industries in the region. And For this region, we're talking about manufacturing-related occupations, healthcare-related occupations, transportation and logistics occupations, as well as things like education, IT. We call those critical industries. So we develop this plan, we send it up to the governor's office, it gets included as part of the state plan. Once we know what those priority industries are, we then bring in the money to sit down with like Mount Wachusett Community College, QCC, Monty Tech, Leominster CTE, all of the area high schools around their transitional programming for youth going into the workforce. We develop our strategies around that, utilize the funds, and get people into these workforce training programs.
That's really amazing. So you're working at that critical intersection of local, regional, but also state and federal, because it all comes together.
So you're talking about things like the American Rescue Plan funding, ARPA money, right? So pre-COVID, post-COVID, the state received a significant amount of money for workforce training. We knew that we had a shift in the labor force. We knew that we had a lot of people retire. We knew that things really became apparent, like childcare, transportation-related issues in this region. So when you talk about federal money, we talk about the ARPA funding. We also receive what we call WIOA money, Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act money, right? And that's money that looks at, again, getting folks who may have lost their jobs back into the workforce. We work very closely with the unemployment office to assist people to get off unemployment and get back into the workforce. So yeah, you're talking about state grants that come from Commonwealth Corporation, which is state money. Commonwealth Corporation is the quasi-state agency that manages a lot of this funds. We then look at the workforce training grants, write the grants, partner with the community colleges, the high schools, the voc-tech schools, and get people into these pipelines. That's
amazing. What are you seeing now at a regional level? I think right now we see job openings everywhere, yes. And but at the same time we look at our unemployment rate, and it's still near historic low levels, and both at a state and federal level. So right. Talk us through a little of what's happening right now in this climate.
So it's multifaceted, right? So you and I we hear all the time. You hear from employers, "I can't find people," right? Or people don't want to work. Those types of commentary, right? And that's not necessarily the case. Like you mentioned, we're back to pre-pandemic unemployment rate. I think in this region we're talking about 4.3%. In the state of Massachusetts, we're at about 3.5, 3.6% unemployment rate. The biggest challenge, in particular for this region, is we have a higher level of folks who are at retirement age. We have an older population living in this region. Okay. So we have a significant amount of more people retiring than are entering into the workforce. We also, and this is not only in the state of Massachusetts, but this is across the country, we have less workers. And it's been that way the trend has been this way for like 30 years. So overall, we have less people available to be in the workforce. We have more people retiring than entering the workforce. And then we have, in this region, a cost of living issue. Sure. And certainly in Massachusetts, absolutely. Right? We're seeing a lot of people leave Massachusetts, move to New Hampshire, move down south, whatever, where the cost of living is cheaper. So now you're talking about a wage issue. So our goal is to work very closely with employers to help them understand those issues, right? You got to look at, so what is a livable wage? Right. What is fair in terms of industry? Because you can't necessarily say to an employer, hey, if you pay people $26 an hour, you won't have a work issue, right? Right. That industry may not, on average, pay $26 an hour for certain positions, right? So we pay very close attention to helping people not only understand the different issues around, and things like childcare, again, that's a huge issue for this region. We not only have a labor shortage in the childcare industry, but we also have more and more families who need affordable childcare, which that poses a problem for people getting back into the workforce. So it's really about helping people understand and realize how to establish living wages in the region, and then provide supports around getting people to work consistently.
Well, I think that's great, because I think all too often folks feel like maybe there's this perceived disconnect between industry and the workforce, right. And I think you were that broker there of explaining to businesses and industry, all right, here's how we get people to you. Here's how we can make both the job more attractive, but also here's the services and supports that are necessary to recruit and retain. But then also, here's how we can get the workforce ready and able to suit your needs as an industry.
Exactly. It's really threefold, right? So when we talk about those workforce training dollars, when we develop those partnerships to apply for those grants, it begins with first getting employer partners to participate in the workforce training grants. Then we sit down and we say to someone like Mount Wachusett Community College, this is what the labor market needs as far as training. This is some new skills that people need. The industry has shifted and we need to provide more support around automation and robotics or whatever it may be for that particular industry. We align those projects and then we partner with our local career centers to bring people in to get access to these training programs. And in many cases, these training programs are free. Along those lines, we are also able to sit down with employers and have them gain access to funding that allows them to build out their facilities, to add equipment, to bring in trainers to train their existing staff so that those staff can advance and then we can bring in that next generation of workforce. It goes all the way back to the high school level for us. So we'll sit down with our high schools and we'll help them put together what we call skills capital grants. These are grants where our local high schools can bring in the equipment necessary to teach these young folks the skills that are going on in the industry. And these are being driven by the industry professionals who say, this is the type of equipment we use in our industry. This is the training that these folks will need, these young people will need to become successful employees with our business. So that's the work we do. It's really begins at the high school level. It is industry driven. We host meetings with our employers and we hear what you say to us as an employer. This is what our industry needs. This is what we're lacking. And then we bring that information to the table at the community colleges to develop those training programs.
Jeff, with our last couple of minutes here, if I'm an individual or looking to engage with you, or a business, quite frankly as well, what's the best way to engage and how do people interact and sign up?
So if you're a job seeker, or even if you are somebody who's currently working, but maybe there's a different opportunity for you, the first step you can always do is access the Career Center in Leominster. All of the services at the Career Center are provided both in person and virtual. All of the services are free. You can get that information by going to the Career Center website, which is www.masshirenorthcentralcc.com. The website will come up. You click on JobQuest. It's a 5-minute process. You enter in some general information. You are immediately then contacted by a career counselor. You will be scheduled for a Career Center seminar, which teaches you all of the services that are available to you. Again, they are completely free. And you can do them virtually. You can also come into the schedule appointments and meet with counselors at the center. So again, if you're a job seeker out there or somebody who wants to know what's available in this region as far as employment opportunities, please, I encourage you to contact the Career Center, www.masshirenorthcentralcc.com. Also, if you just Google MassHire North Central, it'll bring you right to the site. If you're an employer in this region and you want to be better connected to available funding to build your business or get engaged with what's happening in this region, again, you can reach out to me at the Workforce Board, and that website is masshirenorthcentralwb.com. Again, if you Google MassHire Workforce Board, MassHire North Central Workforce Board, our information comes up. I'm sure on the screen they're going to put my contact information, my email address, which is very long, but it'll be on the screen. My email address, my phone number, but we are always talking to employers. We're always encouraging job seekers to engage.
Fantastic. Well, Jeff Roberge, thank you so much for coming in to the studio. Thank you to our partners at FATV, as always, for hosting us and for all of their help with the production of this show. I hope folks join in and tune in next month, as we'll have James Bunnell, the Recreation Director